The gospel for today may be found on page 1205 in your Bible, page 1205. It's from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 4, beginning with verse 1, page 1205. The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus, full of the Spirit, returned from the Jordan and was led by the Spirit in the wilderness, where for 40 days he was tempted by the devil. He ate nothing at all during those days, and when they were over, he was famished. The devil said to him, "If you are the Son of God, command this stone to become a loaf of bread." Jesus answered him, "It is written, one does not live by bread alone." Then the devil led him up and showed him in an instant all the kingdoms of the world. And the devil said to him, "To you I will give their glory and all this authority, for it has been given over to me, and I will give it to anyone I please. If you then will worship me, it will all be yours." Jesus answered him, "It is written, worship the Lord your God and serve only him." Then the devil took him to Jerusalem and placed him on the pinnacle of the temple, saying to him, "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down from here, for it is written, he will command his angels concerning you to protect you, and on their hands they will bear you up, so that you will not dash your foot against a stone." Jesus answered him, "It is said, do not put the Lord your God to the test." When the devil had finished every test, he departed from him until an opportune time. The Gospel of the Lord. Well, my voice is not very clear this morning, so I hope that it's not too painful to listen. I suppose I should be tempted to cut things short, but I will see if I can overcome temptation. In the first reading, people were tempted to forget about God, to take things for granted, to forget that all their blessings had come from God. In the gospel, Jesus is tempted. Did you hear about those high school senior boys who were driving to school one morning? And it was a beautiful day. The sun was shining, it was warm, the birds were singing. After a long, cold, miserable winter, they were saying, "Wow, this is it. God meant this day for us. Let's just take off and forget about school." And so they rode around town, enjoyed themselves, enjoyed the fresh air, enjoyed springtime. And getting towards noon, they thought, maybe we better head back now, and if we turn ourselves in early and say, give them a good excuse, we'll probably be okay. So they went to school, they saw the teacher and said, "Oh, teacher, we were on our way to school this morning, and we had a flat tire, and we had to stop and get it fixed." And the teacher said, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. But while you were absent, we had a little quiz, and so you need to catch up. So have a seat and take a piece of paper and your pencil and answer a question or so. Question number 1. What tire went flat?" Well, temptation usually catches up with us, and we get caught. Jesus was tempted. Now, I've told you before that when I was a kid, I didn't quite believe that. I was pretty skeptical because I thought Jesus was God, just with a human skin pulled over him. And underneath it all, he was really God, and he knew everything that was going on. He could read everybody's mind. He had no decisions to make because he knew exactly how life was going to play out. Life was easy for him, and he could not be tempted. And then I studied a little theology, and I thought, I was probably wrong. Because if Jesus was going to come to earth as a human being, if he was going to be human, he had to forget that he was God and not even be aware of that. And only gradually was he able to come to the realization that he was, first of all, different, that he had certain powers, and finally, maybe on the cross, that he was God. And so I believe that he really was tempted. He really had decisions to make and didn't know how it was going to turn out. Now, according to the story we heard today's gospel, he had just been baptized in the Jordan. He came up north, went into the desert, and fasted for 40 days. Now, we don't know how this worked out because we weren't there. In fact, nobody was there. Luke, who wrote the gospel, was not there, nor Matthew or Mark, and they all have a little bit different versions. So let me give you my version, okay? For whatever that might be worth. I think after Jesus had fasted for 40 days, he was obviously famished, as the gospel says. And the devil, whether that was something that looked like a human being or was just a voice inside Jesus, more like our temptations, that said, you are so hungry, you are so famished, you'll never make it back to civilization. You got to get out of this desert. You need something to eat. Take one of these stones here, you can turn it into bread. You know you have that power. God sent you to do a mission. He wouldn't want you to die out here in the desert before you even started. Take something to eat. Turn the stones into bread. And Jesus says, get lost. So the devil says, well, okay. God sent you here to have a mission, to accomplish something, to change the world. If you're going to do that, you need some base of power, because here you are in the desert. If you go into town, the biggest city around is Jerusalem, and that's not much. You have nobody's going to pay any attention to you. Nobody's going to know that you even exist. You ought to be in Rome, for example. Why don't I take you to Rome and put you in Caesar's palace and give you some power, and eventually you can build that up, and your voice will be heard. You can really start a revolution from there. Does that make sense? And Jesus says, tempting, but no thanks. And then the evil spirit within Jesus says, well, if you don't want that, you've got to attract attention to yourself so people will pay attention. Even these people here, they're not very powerful, they don't have much, they don't know much, but if you want to get their attention, you have to do something spectacular. So let me take you up to the temple, the parapet of the temple, and have you fly off of there. And they'll say, whoa, who is this? Superman. And they'll pay attention to you. And Jesus says, I'll do it my way. I'll do it like the Father wants me to do. Thank you very much. And it says the devil left him to await another opportunity. I think that's more like our temptations. We just get these inclinations to do this or that or the other that we know is not right. And sometimes we yield. And we have to ask God's forgiveness. But we know that He's always a loving God. He loves us all the time, no matter what. And He forgives us all the time. So let's just take a moment to reflect on how the evil spirit works in our lives. What kind of temptations does he send? And do we ask God's help in resisting our temptations?